Construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge nears completion. Summer festival fill.
Put things in the garbage, put things in the proper recycling.
Rules and regulations for cleanup. And close call.
No!
And that's where I started to panic because he could have basically killed me right there and then.
Ferry accident survivor speaks out.
CTV News with Stefanie Masotti.
Good evening and thank you for joining us, and welcome to those listening to us on AM 800. Tonight there are conflicting reports about the status of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Joining me with the latest tonight, Michelle Mosky. Michelle.
Yeah, Stefanie, the Windsor Star and CBC Windsor are both reporting the bridge could be delayed to 2026. They cite an old report from the spring by S&P Global. The company did not return my email today, but in the course of trying to confirm those reports, I was able to dig up some new details about the bridge project.
This is the latest addition to the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Canadian and American flags now in place at the center of the span where the two bridge decks join. Officials with the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority tell CTV News this bridge is now 98% done. We are making progress towards our anticipated completion this year. Heather Grondin is quoted in a statement to CTV News. Grondin says, however, it's too early to pinpoint the day when traffic can flow across the $6.4 billion bridge. CTV News has also confirmed the CBSA handover started this past winter, allowing the border agency to install equipment. Spokesperson Luke Reimer said in a statement, CBSA employees have begun to occupy the port of entry buildings. Reimer says they will be ready once the Bridge Authority chooses an opening day. Officials with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, however, deferred our questions back to the Bridge Authority. Citing security implications, Grondin won't say whether or not CBP has been handed the keys to their port of entry buildings. Local media are reporting CBP has not taken possession as of April, and they would need 6 months to be ready to process traffic.
The only other nugget we could get out of the Bridge Authority today is Grondin confirmed they are now working on, quote, installing final systems, testing and commissioning of the bridge. Construction on the 2.5-kilometer bridge started, Stefanie, way back October 2018.
Okay, Michelle, thank you for our top story tonight. In other news, a Windsor-based comedian, her husband and their daughter lost everything last week in this $750,000 house fire, including their cat. The fire broke out at around 10 p.m. on Thursday. The building has been deemed unsafe for investigators to enter. The cause of the fire remains unknown. CTV's Bob Belichico caught up with the comedian today. Jen Richardson says she is overwhelmed and very grateful for an outpouring of community support.
Seeing pictures is one thing, seeing it in real life and smelling it, and one thing at a time.
Jen Richardson isn't ready to see the remnants of a fire that devastated her family's life. Tickets were being collected as she was boarding the train home from Toronto when she got the call.
I'm like, I'm sorry, could you come back? Like, my house is burning down.
Her husband was home but made it out. Their 8-year-old was away at a camp. The family cat perished in the fire, which Windsor Fire now says has caused up to $750,000 damage.
We've lost everything. Things.
The comedy community has stepped up with this GoFundMe page, but that's not where it ends. They're also hosting a comedy fundraiser for Jen and her family on August 8th at the Tipsy Toucan. The family does have insurance, but the outpouring of support for the short term has been overwhelming for the Richardsons.
The generosity, the kindness, the words I've heard from people I haven't heard from in decades, like people I don't know. So beautiful.
Debbie Mitchell has never met the family, but felt compelled to reach out.
It just must be, like, so awful that I just felt that I wanted to drop off some clothing and a little bit of food, but my heart goes out to them.
The road to rebuilding their lives could be long.
I've seen 3 months and I've seen a year and a half.
Local realtor Joe Falea, who has helped 3 displaced residents this year, suggests calling a realtor if the homeowners are forced to relocate. Secure a timeline with the insurance company and use social media if the plan is to stay in the neighborhood.
You'd be surprised there might be a house that's sitting vacant, fully furnished, that is in a state of senior that may be in a senior home. And we don't know about it because it's not necessarily on the market.
Losing everything is nothing to laugh at, but the comedian does find it funny that a year ago, a psychic reading predicted she was going to be famous.
Just wish they would have told me that my house was going to burn down for it, maybe. I've had more press over this than anything I've done comedically. Like, I wish my house was back.
Bob Belichico, CTV News.
A Chatham Kent court has found 2 people guilty of animal cruelty offenses. Devon and Ruben Hansor were convicted of permitting distress to animals on July 8th and fined $1,000 each. The pair have been hit with a 3-year ban from owning, caring, or living with animals, but this does not apply to 2 dogs already in Ruben's custody. Also tonight, an arrest has been made following a bomb threat in Wallaceburg. Police were called to a municipal building on Dufferin Avenue just after 9 a.m. this morning. No explosives were found. A 50-year-old man is currently in police custody. Now, we are in the midst of summer festival season, and with thousands of people attending each event, garbage is bound to pile up. But there are ways you can help minimize the debris.
City of Windsor crews are up early, clearing waste left behind at McHugh Park. Thousands of people attended the Cubby Cup on Sunday and left a trail of garbage behind.
So it has to be returned to us in the same condition as it was.
That cleanup comes with a cost. The city's Director of Parks and Recreation, James Chaco, says organizers are back-charged for non-compliance.
If it's repeated issues, it can lead to a specific event organizer actually being barred from holding any other events on city property.
The Windsor Cubby Club tells CTV News, "We will leave it the way we found it."
At times, anybody can become overwhelmed by certain things, but, it's not the idea of you can just let it go for whatever you want for 72 hours, and as long as it's, cleaned up at the end. The goal is obviously, and requirement is that it's cleaned at the end while it's being turned over, but again, you can't just allow it to become something that's unsightly or unmaintained throughout as well.
Chaco says event goers can also play a role in making cleanup efforts easier.
Put things in the garbage, put things in the proper recycling, whether it's an event at McHugh, like the one this past weekend, an event that takes place at Festival Plaza, somebody renting a picnic shelter at Micmac Park, or just utilizing one of our sports fields or a basketball court. We ask people to properly put things away.
If you have any concerns, you are encouraged to file a report with 311.
It allows us to then get metrics. We then take that information and liaise with the group if it's a festival or an event, to provide them feedback and say, here's what we've heard.
Now this takes us to our question of the day. Do you see a lot of littering at festivals around Windsor, Essex? Go to our website to cast your vote, ctvnewswindsor.ca. On Friday, we asked if the town of Essex should allow a wedding venue to operate on a quiet rural road. Just shy of 1,200 people responded. 63% of them say no. CTV meteorologist Gary Archibald joins me now for a first look at the weather. And Gary, we're learning the city has now closed all of the sports fields and diamonds tonight because of that thunderstorm that rolled through here earlier today. We do know Environment Canada issuing both a warning and some alerts tonight.
Well, we're in the midst of the high heat and humidity. Obviously, the atmosphere is reacting to that. There is that trigger in severe weather in the form of thunderstorms, some pretty good gusts of wind associated with this area of low pressure, a cluster of thunderstorms clipping extreme southwestern Ontario. So tonight we're still in watch or warning. We still have several hours to go to see second and third waves, maybe residual effects as this cold front passes through. The heat is up. The warning's still in place and could be extended. I'll break down what you need to know on all fronts, pun intended, just ahead. For now, I'll send it back to the desk.
Windsor police are facing a $2.5 million deficit. Projections as of May 31st show a deficit of 2% or $2,575,000 by the end of 2025. Now, some of that is due to a reduction in grants and subsidies, but $2 million is for salaries and benefits. Half of that number due to overtime pay. The numbers show much of the overtime comes from staffing protests to ensure public safety as well as assisting in mental health situations. The Windsor Police Services Board is looking into possible mitigation efforts. That may include pulling officers from other duties to help staff these incidents and looking for more provincial grants. Now, Windsor City Council meeting today, one last time before a summer break. CTV's Travis Fortnum joins us to break it all down for us tonight. And Travis, not as stacked an agenda as we've seen in recent meetings, but still some very important items up for debate.
Yeah, that's right, Stefanie. Council checking off a handful of files, including that revamped flag policy. You'll remember this was a hot topic back in May. City administration has since clarified the language on this policy change, and that seems to have eased concerns, particularly from members of Windsor's Pride community.
With the policy change, I do appreciate the change of direction. I don't think it's necessary per se. However, I can understand the reasoning, the logic, the rationale that they're going with.
The policy now defers primarily to federal and provincial rules on which flags can fly and when. There's room for exceptions to mark city events or local causes, or for other flags that pass a council vote. The mayor says the change brings consistency and helps avoid embarrassment if a controversial flag were to ever be raised.
Recognizing that our city clerk's office, they're not diplomats, trained to be working in diplomatic affairs and understanding all of the international relations that our country and or our province would have. And so they do the best that they can do. They've done a good job over time. But I think this was a sensible and appropriate policy change that at least allows us to be in a defensible position and not be offside.
Over to Roseland Golf Club, where plans for a new clubhouse continue to take shape. The city is hosting a public open house this Thursday, July 31st, from 3 to 7 p.m. There's also an online survey launching that same day. Resident feedback will help shape the clubhouse design and could impact future residential development on the property. Council also receiving an update on homelessness in the region with new numbers from the latest point-in-time count. 266 people were identified as experiencing homelessness in Windsor, Essex, up from 251 in 2021. The snapshot cites addiction, job loss, and family conflict as key factors, as well as the cost of housing. The mayor says the city's doing its part, but can't shoulder the burden alone.
In terms of what we can do to help people who are experiencing these difficulties, we're there. We're spending a lot of money to help those folks. But the other partners have to dial it up as well to make sure that there's enough housing, to make sure that the treatments for mental health and addiction are there when the people need them, to get them on a pathway to recovery to become productive citizens in the future.
Council backed a motion from Ward 8 Councillor Gary Kashak calling on administration to keep pushing upper levels of government for more support. With that, Council now breaks for the summer. The next scheduled meeting set for Monday, September 8th. Stefanie.
Okay, Travis Fortnum, thank you for this update. Sticking now with the homeless situation, Robert Lothian is in Chatham, Kent at this hour, where officials are about to debate how best to respond to concerns over a new location.
Stefanie, talks are just getting underway here inside the Civic Center behind me. The special meeting was called in response to a new encampment that's began along Grand Avenue East. Now, members of council that I spoke with ahead of tonight's meeting say the goal is to find a solution that strikes a balance between the rights of homeowners as well as the rights of those who are living within this encampment.
They're very upset that, first of all, they weren't notified. There was zero consultation with the residents in that area of town. And of course, there's many businesses too that are affected.
Ward 6 Councillor Michael Bondi is proposing tents be removed each day after sunrise, adding they can return at sunset. A new encampment on municipal land has become a point of contention for nearby residents. Tents began popping up after an encampment near the Thames River was cleared to allow for construction work on the riverbank. Mayor Darren Caniff is bringing forward a motion of his own. He wants to raise the minimum distance between a tent and a residence from 10 meters to 100.
Looking at that balance of, would anyone want an encampment 10 meters behind their house? And, just the rights of that. So that's what it's balanced on. So we're now looking at, and I'm going to get this morning as to what locations does that put them in.
As part of his motion, Caniff says he's hoping to have some potential locations that fit within this standard. Ultimately, though, he says the goal is to find permanent housing for these individuals. Stefanie.
Reporting from Chatham, Kent tonight, Robert Lothian. Thank you, Robert. Now, work to address an abandoned water well in Wheatley begins tomorrow. The municipality of Chatham, Kent believes a well behind the library is the cause of multiple reports of gas odors last month, prompting evacuation orders for residents living nearby. Officials hosted a virtual town meeting to inform residents ahead of the work that a flow of hydrogen sulfide is being diverted to a monitoring well. Construction equipment will be on site today before work begins tomorrow. It's estimated crews could be in the area for 7 to 10 days.
We are going to excavate to locate the old water well, and that'll begin on Tuesday. Once we find the water well, we will extend it to surface in order to properly abandon it.
As the clock ticks down to a trade deal deadline, is the EU's deal with President Trump a sign of what's to come? That's still ahead on Windsor's News Leader. And what's behind an auto theft slowdown as authorities brace for criminals to change tactics?
Start your day with the latest local news. By signing up for our newsletter, you'll get direct local content straight from CTV Windsor to your inbox, including top stories, the forecast, and videos. You can sign up at ctvnewswindsor.ca.
The Federal Transport Safety Board is investigating an incident where a car fell from a Quebec ferry into the water, taking the driver with it. Stefanie spoke with him and shares the account of what happened.
I'm not able to sleep, not right now anyway.
It's been more than a week since Laval businessman Michael Demarinis almost drowned after an incident at the Laval-Ile-Bizard ferry.
I was car number 5, and when it was my turn to get off the ferry, I don't know what went wrong, but the separation from the ferry and the platform was maybe at that point when my back tires had to cross, it was maybe, I would say, 2 feet, where it caused the car to completely drop.
Demarinis says he couldn't get out while the car was half submerged.
Because I was afraid of the ferry would come into me, and that was probably the scariest part.
He says the decision to try to push the car with the ferry's platform was catastrophic.
He didn't put the car back onto the ferry. All he was doing was squeezing the car onto the platform, which caused all the windows to shatter, and that's where I started to panic, because he could have basically killed me right there and then.
And when the car began to drift, getting out wasn't simple.
I was fighting the currents to keep the door open so that I can escape the car, which I finally did. But it took me a little bit of time because it wasn't easy to get out of there.
Come here. Demarinis is in his 60s and a good swimmer, so he managed to reach the shore, but says the employee who jumped to save him didn't help at all.
Because when he tried to get the raft, it was impossible for him to even get back to that raft. So he finally got to it, but by then, I was already on safe ground.
Demarinis is very critical of the safety protocol on the ferry and says nobody seemed to know what to do.
There was maybe 5 minutes of time that they could have done something or give me some kind of life emergency kit, some buoy or a life jacket or anything like that in case anything would have happened, but there was total panic at this point.
Demarinis was taken to hospital where he was treated for shock. He says the operator never apologized. CTV News reached out to the ferry operator and have yet to hear back from them. Demarinis says he'll now avoid the ferry.
No, I would not go back to that ferry. Absolutely not.
Stéphane Giroux, CTV News, Laval.
Auto theft across the country is down by nearly 20% in the first half of this year. The largest drops were seen in Ontario and Quebec, but experts say thieves are using new tactics. CTV's John Benavali-Rao now on the new data.
Despite the improving numbers, on average nationwide, a vehicle is stolen every 10 minutes.
It's all a big shock, to be honest. I kind of feel violated.
Ryan Tostic of Milton, Ontario, is filling out insurance forms after his beloved 2004 Chevy Silverado was swiped from a repair shop just over a week ago. The thief was caught on surveillance cameras. Tostic says his truck had a new engine and says he'd never had anything stolen from him in his life.
Just, crazy to see what kind of value just is gone within minutes.
But compared to the same period in 2024, in the first half of this year, auto thefts were down 19% nationally, plunging almost 26% in Ontario, while Western and Atlantic Canada saw 9% declines.
I do caution that even though the numbers are still going down, they're still high, and it doesn't mean that we need to take our foot off the gas.
The report says better public awareness and collaborative efforts by governments and law enforcement agencies appear to be making a difference, noting during the pandemic auto thefts rose when the supply chain for new cars was disrupted, peaking in the first half of 2023 at 34,000 and declining ever since. Still, experts note there's been a shift towards stolen vehicles being sent to chop shops.
What's old is new again. Chop shops are having a resurgence where they're stealing vehicles and selling it part by part, not only domestically but internationally.
According to the report, more stolen vehicles are being found. 56% were recovered in the first half of this year versus 53% last year.
Personally, I'd like to have the vehicle back. I'm not hopeful, but I'm trying to be hopeful.
And if you're wondering if insurance rates might come down because of fewer thefts, the Insurance Bureau of Canada says thefts still remain above historical levels, adding repair and vehicle replacement costs have also been on the rise. John Vanavelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
There are just days left for Canada to reach a trade agreement with the United States before Trump's August 1st deadline and the threat of tariffs as high as 50%. CTV's Abigail Beeman is covering the story for us tonight.
Canada's Prime Minister and the American President were both visiting islands and talking trade. Donald Trump in Scotland musing about baseline world tariffs.
I just want to be nice. I would say in the range of 15 to 20%.
The negotiations are at an intense phase. It's a complex negotiation.
While on Prince Edward Island, Mark Carney repeated in French that a deal with no tariffs is unlikely.
We're standing up for Canada, Canadian interests. Of course, the United States is looking out, the President's looking out for the interests of American workers. There is a landing zone that's possible, but we have to get there.
There appears to be a backing away from the tariff for tariff, elbows up sort of combative tone.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Peter MacKay feels we may not get the kind of deal we want.
Donald Trump has really had his way with many countries, and they are coming to heel and rolling around like kittens on a couch.
While Ontario's Premier still hopes Canada is treated differently.
A tariff on Canadians is a tax on Americans. Prices will go up.
It's not the kind of recession-inducing shock that 25% on literally everything would have been.
This University of Calgary economist says a 15% baseline tariff on non-CUSMA compliant goods would still be a net negative for the Canadian economy. But it's important to focus on the bigger picture, what happens with CUSMA down the line.
That's a much more important potential shock to the economy than a 15% baseline with an exemption for trade agreement compliant exports.
Trump's trade deal deadline is Friday, with the Prime Minister saying Canada is still engaged in negotiations. Mark Carney stressing Canada is also already a big investor in the United States as we watch other countries sign deals that require major financial commitments. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
Canada's Summer McIntosh claimed her second gold medal in the pool today as she tries to swim to history at the World Championships in Singapore.
It's Walsh in second place. McIntosh takes another gold medal for Canada.
The 18-year-old Canadian phenom touched the wall first in the 200-meter individual medley, just shy of her own world record time. She already won gold in the 400-meter freestyle and is hoping for 5 golds in total, a feat that would equal a record set by Michael Phelps at the World Championships. Another interest rate decision is coming from the Bank of Canada this Wednesday. Economists polled by Reuters think the central bank will hold its benchmark rate steady at 2.75%, citing the recent rise in inflation and a slight fall in unemployment for the reasoning. Analysts have also pointed to a lack of clarity around the impact of U.S. tariffs, especially as trade talks with Canada come down to the August 1st deadline. Canada's main stock index fell as gains in energy were offset by losses in metals, industrials, and utilities. In Toronto, the TSX fell 89 points. In New York, the Dow lost 64, the Nasdaq gained 70. The Canadian dollar is down 1/10 of a cent today. On commodity markets, gold dropped more than $25 an ounce and oil added $1.55 a barrel. From delays to denied compensation, the CTA is drowning in complaints. Still ahead, why passengers could be waiting years for answers.
Let's look at our CTV News weather snapshot. Thanks to Sebastian Luke for this dynamic cloud image. Lovely stuff. Will more of the same happen tonight? That is thunderstorm activity. And how long is this heat warning to be in place? We'll find out next on CTV News Windsor.
Discussion here at Windsor City Hall.
Windsor's top stories.
A major project is about to get underway.
Breaking news alerts.
Severe weather is a possibility.
And watch live.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Download the CTV News app.
Looks like a little breeze there, but really today temperature is unbearable at times. Gary, wow, feeling like it was in the 40s out there.
Yes, you're right. Earlier in the afternoon, say 1, 2 o'clock, things were nice enough in the shade to be outside. And then we saw the moisture and humidity really start to percolate in the atmosphere, the darkening clouds, the thickening of the sky, if you will, with those storms moving through. Reached a high of 31. Our average is 28, 3 degrees above seasonal. But of course, the high humidity levels in that 65, 70% range made it feel like about 41, 42-ish in some parts of extreme southwestern Ontario. Now that this cold front's pushing through, cooler, rain-cooled air, in fact, is moving through. 3:30 through 4 o'clock, we started to see southeastern Michigan storms moving into southwestern Ontario, and that has certainly changed the atmospheric characteristics in terms of the temperature, but it's still muggy out there. It will feel like the mid-30s through to about 9, 10 p.m. Much of Ontario is warm, especially in the south. The prairies have cooled off a bit, and we're still warm in the eastern flank of the country. If you live in Oxley or Willowwood, Colchester, Amherstburg, Pelee Island, and of course our friends in Leamington and Kingsville getting hit hard by these storms as they rolled right through. Detroit first, then Windsor, Essex. And we're still looking at post-frontal. This is the initial front moving through, and that means the storm risk, right? Watches and warnings potentially in and out of it through to about 11 p.m. tonight. The rainfall tallies will be, well, anywhere from about 15 to 35 millimeters. Then we'll get into a bit of a break as we head towards tomorrow morning. I think it will be a mostly cloudy day tomorrow, but between now and midnight, still anticipate rounds 2 and maybe even 3 in terms of the rainfall / thunderstorm activity. Just getting clipped right along the shores of Lake Erie's northwestern flank, if you will, Lake St. Clair, and a little bit further east towards Chatham-Kent. Rondo Park, Chatham-Kent, and Erie likely not to see the worst of this. The likelihood of severe weather in the form of tornadic activity is relatively low. Tonight, we'll see it clearing around midnight down to about 23. Ourselves heating and cooling 7-day forecast, calling for showers Tuesday, Wednesday, 31, 28, and then some sunshine Mid-20s Friday, Saturday, Sunday through to the holiday on Monday.
Lifetime, brought to you by Safeguard Medical Alert Systems.
A clothing design mocking Tim Hortons is sparking backlash online. Critics call it racist, while the company behind it claims it's satire. Stefanie Thomas reports.
Thank you. You have a nice day.
The cafes are iconic in Canada, and now the name Tim Hortons has been swapped out on the design of this T-shirt sold by an online company called Alberta Unchained. It says, "Sing Hortons," using a common South Asian name. The line below reads, "Now hiring Timmigrants."
Hate is hate, and it's in many different forms.
The apparel company refused an interview with CTV News and did not answer questions about who is behind the company, where they are based, or how many items with this design have been sold. Instead, it sent this statement saying, to clarify, the Sing Hortons design is a piece of satire. It is not racially motivated, nor is it intended to target any community. The executive director of Stop Hate AB says humor can be a cop-out to cover up anti-immigrant sentiment, and says the design should be called out for being hateful.
To collectively stand against hate is us actually doing an action towards ending it. Ignoring it gives it space.
Tim Hortons' hiring practices have come under fire for the company's reliance on temporary foreign workers, for paying low wages and reducing opportunities in communities with high youth unemployment. Tim Hortons turned down an interview with us, instead sending a statement reading, "There are over 100,000 hardworking Tim Hortons team members across the country who are members of our local communities, and they do not deserve to be exposed to such blatant racism. We will be taking swift action to hold the people behind this accountable."
There's not much that can be done within a criminal matter.
Legal experts say the design doesn't amount to a hate crime, but taking on
disgusting, prejudicial kinds of ideas is through, the cleansing light of publicity.
Stefanie Thomas, CTV News, Calgary.
A woman-only app aimed at making dating safer is the victim of hackers. Here's some tips on how to stay safe while dating.
I'm looking for Mark. You must be his housekeeper.
No, I'm his wife, Kate.
It's the nightmare scenario for single women everywhere. You think you found Mr. Right, but he's not who he claims to be. But these days, more and more women have been turning to the internet for help or for the tea, like these women posting on TikTok.
I know I'm not the only one who's been scrolling on that T app.
What really makes this app interesting is when other people start corroborating the stories that are being shared on the app.
T is a popular women-only app that says they allow users to anonymously share information about the men they are dating or looking to date. According to their website, the app lets women raise potential red flags or green flags they might not be aware of, such as marital status, abusive behavior, and criminal records.
You're a little worried about, going out with a complete and total stranger. Using a site like T to search their name to see if there's anything been written up about them could be very powerful.
But the app, initially aimed at protecting and helping women navigate the dating scene, recently became a victim itself. On Friday, the app says hackers gained access to thousands of images on the site, including ID cards and selfies. The company telling ABC News T detected a security incident. In response, we immediately took steps to contain the incident and launched a full investigation with assistance from external cybersecurity firms. T is not the first of its kind. The Facebook group Are We Dating the Same Guy has also been used by women to expose deceitful dates. And while dating experts say these sites can provide some valuable intel for swiping singles, they shouldn't always be taken at face value.
It's not a place for people just to vent about guys that no longer want to date with them. Really, you should use it only for a place to warn other women.
Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
This flew and legends clashed at the Downtown Showdown. Highlights from some of Canada's top wrestling stars still ahead on Windsor's News Leader.
Pure Country 89, Windsor's country music station. Pure access to the biggest stars and the hottest songs. Download the free iHeartRadio app to listen to Pure Country everywhere.
A backlog of tens of thousands of complaints from air passengers is piling up at the Canadian Transportation Agency. One advocate says this system is failing passengers.
From delays and cancellations to compensation disputes, the Canadian Transportation Agency, also known as the CTA, is drowning in complaints.
It is going to take them more than 2 years to deal with just the current backlog.
In a statement, the CTA told CTV News it has a backlog of 85,000 complaints from air passengers since the Complaints Resolution Office launched in 2023, a number that continues to grow. The founder of Air Passenger Rights says the agency's method of dealing with grievances is complicated, ultimately failing passengers.
In Canada, they have this system where the airline will say, well, it's outside our control, so we don't have to pay you anything.
Gabor Lukács says from the airline's perspective, it's easier and more profitable to refuse to pay and instead tell passengers to file a complaint through the CTA.
So the Canadian Transportation Agency has the power to fine airlines that don't obey the law, but they're not using those powers.
The CTA says it's proposing charging airlines nearly $800 for each eligible complaint. But for some airlines, the proposal is not welcomed. Air Canada told CTV News charging that amount would not be balanced nor an equitable way of addressing the issue. And WestJet says the punitive proposal reflects a troubling disconnect between the agency and the realities of Canada's economy and aviation sector. It adds the agency's priority should be dealing with improving its administration and reduce wait times. However, the CTA says during 2024-2025, its first full fiscal year, the CRO closed over 33,600 complaints, more than ever before. It did not say how many cases were resolved in favor of the passengers. As for Lukács, he says he's taking the CTA to court due to the agency's lack of transparency.
It's not only that it takes more than 2 years and they have a huge backlog, they're also trying to gag passengers who have a case before them.
In the meantime, he says if passengers have complaints against airlines, heading over to small claims courts is the better option. CTV News reached out to Canada's Ministry of Transportation for comment on Sunday, but we did not hear back in time for broadcast. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
And Air Canada flight attendants began voting today on a possible strike. Contract talks with the airline stalled with pay, per diems and pensions among the major sticking points for the union. Air Canada says it is committed to the bargaining process and a strike cannot take place before a 21-day cooling off period. Voting will run through next Tuesday. Windsor's free downtown showdown wrestling event brought some of Canada's top stars to a brawl in the streets.
Ontario superstars. We're here today. It's a beautiful thing. It's an intimate setting. It's a sense of community here. That's what the Good Brothers are all about.
Great crowd here in downtown Windsor. We're excited to be here. Cards in the ropes. DeLuca holds on.
I enjoy the action and all the... It's outside, so the nice weather and the fresh air.
I think it's pretty special, you know. It really helps out the community.
The second year that I've seen the Downtown Showdown, I was here last year. Great show.
Last September, he says he drives a Mustang.
Does?
That's what he likes to brag about.
Oh man, we've been working day and night probably for the last 2 weeks since our last event to set this all up, and you know, we had to roll the dice this morning. We didn't know if it was going to rain or not. As you can see, we're ready to go, so we're excited for a great night of pro wrestling.
Keep your eyes on
It makes for a bit of everything because there's not only just the electricity around the event, but also the energy and the atmosphere and electricity coming in from everywhere.
Do you have thoughts or comments on a story, a question you would like answered? Text us at 10400.
Unscripted, unpredictable, and unapologetic. Wake up with Hannah and Johnny on 93.9 Virgin Radio.
This is your CTV Windsor, our community calendar. It's time to assemble in support of Cystic Fibrosis Canada at Superheroes Unite. Saturday, August 30th from noon until 4 p.m. at the Serbian Center. See you next time on Our Community.
It's time to check in on what's happening now with Kate Otterbein. And Kate, you have an update on a transit line on the city's East End.
That's right. Discussions are underway regarding Transit Windsor and a route to the Nexstar Energy battery plant. A report recommends Transit Windsor be given access to the Nexstar property before August 31st. Route 250, running between Tecumseh Mall and Devonshire Mall, will service the EV battery plant and Twin Oaks Industrial Park. The previous route ended due to challenges posed with ongoing development. Officials are anticipating a high level of demand as the facility will employ a few thousand people. You can find more information on the proposed route online at ctvnewswindsor.ca.
And the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance has some new faces on its team.
Yes, you will see 3 new doctors who are completing their family medicine residencies. The CKHA says the doctors began working there in July. It adds Chatham-Kent gives residents a unique experience as a small hospital setting, giving them room to grow personally and professionally. The women got their education all over the world, but Dr. Farwa Zaib got her Bachelor of Science right here in Windsor. You can find what the doctors have to say on their residencies on our website. And in our social spotlight tonight, we all know the saying, beauty hurts, but for this teen, it might hurt just a little bit too much.
3. Oh, wait, I ain't ready. 2. Wait a second. 1.
Caden here asked for an eyebrow wax after he got his hair cut. As you can see, he can hardly sit back straight after the strip is pulled off his face. Stefanie, I get my eyebrows down pretty frequently, and the first time it was a little startling, but I don't think it hurts that bad. But safe to say he won't be going back to get his eyebrows done anytime soon.
I don't know, Kate. I still cry every single time.
I guess I'm just used to it. It's not that bad.
Teach their own. Okay, thank you, Kate. And that's what's happening now. Nature can be cruel, but a blind baby moose will now get a second chance. His story when we return.
The latest news to start your day.
Interviews, conversations with the top officials, the difference makers, and personalities in Windsor, Essex.
Only on Windsor, Essex #1 morning show.
It's Mornings with Mike and Meg on AM 800.
Nice there, but Gary, the storms that came through, definitely dark, gray later on this afternoon.
That was the leading edge of the storm before, and you're right, we did see a bit of blue sky there. It was a sweltering afternoon. Part of the storminess because of the heat and humidity combined. We are still in the midst of some thunderstorm activity through this evening. Tomorrow, I think we'll see a repeat performance, daytime heating being the trigger for late afternoon, early evening storminess. A high of 31 could feel like 41. 28, and then mostly cloudy showers on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, fairer weather, 28, 26, and then mid to upper 20s, and humidity levels starting to drop off from Thursday through to Monday, the holiday.
So beautiful weekend.
Some fair weather.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Ricardo, Robert is in Chatham-Kent for us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. We're heading back to Chatham-Kent Council, where our Robert Lothian is attending a special meeting tonight on the always contentious topic of encampments. That's what's on the table, with the Chatham-Kent Council proposing a day-long ban with tents allowed to return overnight on public property. Now, that move follows the teardown of one encampment, only for another to pop up along the Thames River. As Steph just mentioned, our Robert Lothian is in attendance, and he will bring us the very latest on the debate and the decision tonight. And they just finished a series over at Comerica over the weekend. We'll look at how the Toronto Blue Jays and their fans are enjoying the team's league-topping success. At the moment, we've got that and more on the way tonight at 11.
Okay, perfect. Now, the Toronto Zoo is getting ready to welcome a blind baby moose that was rescued in eastern Ontario earlier this month. The 2-month-old baby moose named Cedar was found by an animal rescue group wandering alone on a rural road near Ottawa. Since it cannot be released into the wild, the plan is to move the moose to the zoo once approved by health officials.
A really rare case where the orphan has found their way into human care and really begged the what's next question. And I think our first choice always is those animals out in the wild. In this case, though, for compassionate reasons, we have a space, and assuming everything comes together, we look forward to being that forever home for Cedar. And I got to say, I love how people are talking about local wildlife. I think people forget how rich Ontario is and what happens right here in our province.
The moose was spent the past 3 weeks at a wildlife rescue receiving care. Definitely, I think, a rare case, but like you said, it's really nice to highlight the animals that we have in our region.
Yeah, and a second chance for Cedar. You know, it's great to have these facilities and these people who are able to do this care, this rehab work, and give Cedar a second home.
A grassroots name, Cedar. Right. There you go. Very nature.
Oh, he's going to be tall like a cedar. The moose, they're big.
They are big.
And I know the director was mentioning, thankfully, they have some space for him, but I think they would have made space for him regardless.
Yeah. He's a cutie.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. On behalf of our dedicated team here at CTV News Windsor, thank you for watching.
For updates throughout the evening, go to ctvnewswindsor.ca.
And I'll see you again tonight for a late look at local news at 11.
Good night.
Good night.